8, general business. 8A, conducting a joint meeting discussion between the Rushford Public Library Board of Trustees and City Council with State Librarian and Director Nancy Walton to discuss public library governance along with rules and regulations regarding public service. And where do we start?
I'll do some introductions, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Nancy Walton from the State Department is third one in. Michael Scott is the Assistant Director at Selco, and Ann Hutton is the Director at Selco. And mostly just so that, because there's new people on both sides of governance here to understand library boards, how they govern, and so that we can hear it from top person's mouth. No.
For those of you that aren't aware of what the state librarian does, is that I am part of the Department of Education, and the State Library Services is the state library agency for the state of Minnesota. And we are the agency that is responsible for the statutes, the governance, and then for mentoring, monitoring, mediating, and guiding libraries to ensure that we have as much equity of library services as possible. We're also responsible for all the grant and aid programs that come from the state and federal government, specifically for libraries. So the regional public library systems receive funding from us, and then we're responsible for programs such as the Legacy Program. And when there is funding in the state for library construction, we're also responsible for that as well. What I'm here today to talk about is what the statutes have to say about how library services are governed in the state. We guide everything from, we look at the statutes first, and then from that we also look at Attorney General opinions, Attorney General advice, then we have policy and practice. So the State Library Agency has been around since 1899. We actually are older than the Department of Education. And when we moved to the Department of Education, we have remained within the department, and we are a special division. You know, people always think of the Department of Education as K-12, but the Department of Education has adult basic education. They have food and nutrition for school children, and a number of other programs. So today I'm going to talk about the statutes. Everything that we do is guided by Chapter 134, and then Minnesota Rules 3530. And there is language in the statutes relating to two different types of boards. There's the system board, which governs how Selco is governed, and also the multi-type library system governing boards as well, and then for the boards of city and county libraries. And I think really the piece that we look at is who does what, who's responsible for what. When you go to look at Chapter 134.09, it talks about the appointment of the library boards, and the appointments rest with the mayor of the city. And a mayor cannot be on a library board because that would be an incompatible office, because the mayor has the authority to appoint individuals to
I am on the library board.
Well, you can't.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, is that it became an issue with North Mankato, and North Mankato asked for an opinion from the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General said that because the mayor is responsible for the appointments to the library board, the mayor cannot be on the library board. It would be seen as an incompatible office.
Did you just learn this?
But so
I'm not putting you on the spot, Joe.
yeah, so you know, it's something to work out between the two of you, because then if you have been on the library board, there becomes a vacancy that needs to be filled for the board. You still attend library board meetings representing the city, but you are not a voting member of the library board.
So I'm required to attend?
No,
Okay.
usually most...
Just the council member's supposed to be there.
Yeah, but many times there will be representatives from the city at library board meetings to ask questions, to get information, etc. It depends upon the city and how it's structured. Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask this for clarification purposes then. The mayor can be the liaison from the council to the library board. He just can't be a voting member of the library board.
Well, that becomes the whole issue of what do your bylaws say, because he is not representing the city government on the library board. He attends it for informational purposes,
Right.
but I think
As a liaison.
I think liaison would be too formal a term. Because usually
Any member of the council can go to a library board meeting, just as
the
long as we
library
don't
board
put
meets,
up,
yeah.
as long as there's no quorum there.
As long as you don't vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the issue with having the mayor
This is gonna make for an
attending-
interesting conversation later.
Yeah. But it's an issue that came up with North Mankato, and we got very direct guidance from the AG's office that it's an incompatible office. So, and of course, with the way the statutes say, is that annually the mayor, with the approval of the council, and I'm going to leave out the piece for the county, shall appoint the board members for the term of 3 years. And a board member cannot serve more than 3 consecutive 3-year terms. So once you've hit 9 years, you have to step off the board. Now, there's nothing in the statute that says you can't go off for a year and come back on. But part of the reason why they have the 9-year term limit is to allow for new ideas, to allow for rotation. Because being on the library board is not an entitlement. Being on the library board is something that you volunteer to do out of the commitment to the community. And, you know, we occasionally will hear people who've been on the library board for 20 years. And so we'll say, I'm sorry, you need to go off the board for a year, and then it's up to the city if you come back on for another term. And the mayor, with the approval of the council, can remove any member for misconduct or neglect. And so that authority also rests with the mayor. And
That rests with the mayor, doesn't have to go to the council?
well, it rests with the mayor with the approval of the council.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah. It's always the concept of that it's the mayor being the titular head, and then the council is the approving body. And then it also says here that the governing body of the city can abolish the library board at the end of any fiscal year, providing the governing body shall simultaneously establish a successor library board. So people only look at the first half of that sentence and they assume that they can abolish the library board, but the language says you can abolish an existing board, but you have to bring the board back. And then, in terms of compensation, because this question comes up a lot with us, is that library board members shall receive no compensation for their services, but may be reimbursed for actual and necessary traveling expenses incurred in the discharge of library board duties and activities, or a per diem allowance. You don't get both. You have expenses or per diem. And this comes up as a question a lot. People assume it's both, but it's very specific. It says taking care of the traveling expenses or a per diem.
I don't think that's anything we've ever had a problem with.
Yeah. It comes up at the county level quite a bit because people often travel long distances for a county library board meeting.